So if you guys are watching and heck I'm doing, it seems like this mini's blue, those minis are blue. But I'm putting paint on them. So what's actually changing? What's changing is this was originally spray painted so that way I could go and put a coat of shader on. Problem is the shader pool, not just in cracks and what, it pool on flat surfaces too, which is the downside to using a shader. What I'm doing is I'm going over the top of the shader with this rounded brush. It does too dramatic. Hopefully what it'll do, eliminate some of the spots thick, like this little guy right here. Do is we dry brush. Brush the way that it's down cracks, but will hit all the high spots. Sit here, fiddle with it. It will brighten up all high spots quickly. So I'm not trying to do what most people do with the dry brush here, where they try to bring his coat is on a model like this that has flat surfaces. Some of this style, like down here, super dark. Try to bring that up a little bit. You notice it doesn't get everything in. This gets high panels, and so we'll want to do the outside of the here. We'll want to do the top pretty heavily. That way it'll give it a natural look. I don't want to go in there. Bottom of them silly. Like right here, that's a pretty dark shader dried on it. But it's a fancy brush here. Eliminate shaded spot. Front of the lens. And a lot of this is going to get painted over here, so I'm trying not to it's on so thickly. Like ish. So thick. I don't want to put it on so thick that it causes like chalky look. Done that on mechs before. Something like this. This guy was originally painted white, shaded it purple shade. So that's why you get all these spots throughout. Still have purple. With this one, I went back with it mainly so that still get this definition here and like heatsink panel. You know, the still be pretty purple. So hopefully, sitting it from side of the table, it's fine. Up close, it looks a little silly. on the other side of the table, when you're thing closely, compare that something like this purple guy. This is when the new Battletech boxes first came back out. I have no idea it's ended up shiny. Shiny. So shiny's okay sometimes. Not exactly what I was shooting for. I don't know. Sitting there and you're doing Space Marines or something. And this kind of how it dried on here, like it's kind of strange. It doesn't always happen with every single model. I've got some little guys over here where these guys were the blue guys were spray painted blue and shaded the blue shader. Uh, I like using the same color shade whenever I can get the chance to. If I'm doing purple base coat like the guys, I'll want to use shade. Main reason for that is so that it's a little bit. I think it's a little bit easier to cover up if you make some boo boos. Uh, if you're using the shade like I don't know, I have it in the back of my head that it's up using. Like I said, I'm just trying to bring up the large spots, things like all these abs, front of the legs, top of the missile pods here, top of the cockpit. I'm not so much worried about the shading that's through the cockpit area. Missile pods here. That'll applying deep. But like I was saying, I did this guy with blue spray paint. Just a blue shader on. Now I'm using regular Monument Grill blue. Bring it back up. Thank you. Color to the blue spray that I used. This one I sprayed with Mechanica Standard Citadel. Mechanica Standard smooth for me. I've had issues of being a little fisted with some of the other spray cans. This one always goes on smooth for me. But even then, when I shaded it, used a Null Oil shader from Games Workshop Citadel. There's still a few little spots here. There. I'm gonna do the same thing on this model. Use actual dry paint from Citadel. So I'll use Dawnstone on this one rather than blue the blue kind of standard monument. That'll make. Last one out of all of these. This one is. This one's not my favorite. This is a clan mech. Not familiar with Battletech. This. Omni-mechs are basically a generic build plug and play pods to. So this one is more of a USB drive that you plug stuff into. So if you short range missiles, cool. Put a bunch of short range missiles on it. Long range weapons. Okay, switch it over. Reason why they clans out in self-imposed exile side of the sphere, they held on to, especially when it comes to war fighting stuff. You have computers that are fast enough to say, okay, well, it's got this weapon play, so I need to change all the parameters for the target, something else. You know, it's not like back in the day. Sherman tank and any kind of tank. Even if it was a tank that they built multiple models of, you couldn't just switch. You couldn't just say, okay, start shooting. Short barrel gun. I put a long barrel gun. There's physical parts that you have to change. The telescopic sights. Different pieces, physical pieces of machinery, or just a piece of glass that's marked with permanent marks on it. You have to switch that out between one gun barrel and it. These guys do it with the computer. So the computer sees, okay, well, this other weapon system, so I'm going to change targeting, which is pretty something that's still perfected on today's systems. Have things the Striker's one vehicle, sort of you still have to test systems in a computer first, and then you live fire. Things change. The height of a change. The angle change. Change the gun out on something. Spot heavier than it was. Sudden, whenever spinning your turret around, something doesn't spin as quick. Center of gravity. You get the top of the hand here. This little spot right here isn't as important. This is because where the hand is just going to betting this were probably would. Plus the hands flip. So just put some. Whenever it comes to painting, try to be tall. It's supposed to be 10 meters. All of these. So you can see in this guy, you still have a little bit of darker shadow inside the hip, right there. You can see good definition on all the vents and not on the. And that's important because as you start to add more color, you'll keep that definition ordinary. So on something like this little guy, it's huge pop up. If I went through and I just painted it single color, that would just flatten out this whole thing. Look more flat like paper towel than a piece of. I threw this stream out for everybody. I put it on my personal Facebook, put it on the store's Facebook. So if you don't know me, who I am, Sean, wife and I own New Mexico. There's also an Texas, east of Houston. That's the original store. We like to ourselves to be sister. So, chance you get to shop, come see us. If you know who I am, talking about that. The reason why it says cornbread on the screen is basically most people real name spelled noxiously, spelled wrong. So feel bad if you ever mispronounce. Watching the stream and you shop at the store, or you don't shop at the store, something from don't don't be scared. You know, you can say that I was watching Cornbread stream and I decided I wanted to buy some paint. And you guys are welcome to chime in. It says there's 5 of y'all here. Seen anybody say anything in chat? This is new to me. I'm not just internet tech savvy person. Big thanks to a certain individual, University of New Mexico, for getting me set up. Don't know if he wants me to mention his name or not as a handle. Yeah. Let's call him. He was nice enough to come out to the store, get the computer set up. Always know. So this was Mechanica Standard Gray, sprayed on. Not. I like the airbrush. Thin paint, receptive to details on. Spray. So sprayed this one with Mechanica Standard, shaded it Nuln Oil, Citadel. Dry brushing, real heavy dry. Dawnstone. Dawnstone is a dry paint from Citadel. I never know exactly. Call it the overarching company, I believe, is Games Workshop to make Warhammer. Paints, but the paints is Citadel color. Need that might be upside screen. Got the camera upside. Looking at my screen. Text is weird. So in case you guys are Canon on the. So this is doing a pretty good job. You can see down here where there's all panels. I want to keep shading side of the panels. Don't want something like this up here. This is just a spot. It's where the shade is just stuck here. because of surface tension. I don't want it to stay there. Not natural. So I want it to look. You guys can, hopefully, you can see. On the back of his spot, back of this back of his spots. I want to put this on stone top. Try to eliminate those spots. Eye surfaces. Keep all the shade. Recessed area. Do not want so different tone. You can see this paint. It doesn't look to see pudding. It's almost purely pigment. Very little medium fluid that the pigment would sit in. I used to. Oh, well, hey. I'm glad somebody said something. Let me bring the mic over a little bit closer here. All right, is that better? Can you guys hear me better now? Someone let me know. This mic shouldn't be too directional, but apparently it will. I can do this too. All right, how's that? That a little louder? Now I'm talking louder too, so that's. I have no idea who you are, Green Wire. Might be somebody that I know who's dropping in. You might be a random stranger. Either way, thank you. Wherever I get my board, I'll put a gold star up for you. You know, I don't know how many of you guys are here, folks, whoever. I don't know how many of y'all are here because of who I am, begging you to watch my stream, give me a little confidence to do this. How many of y'all are coming from Reddit or somewhere where I dropped a link? These little guys probably end up talking lore that goes along with them as far as I know. Tactically, how you use them. This little guy is a hunchback. Not exactly the best 2020s term, but it's named. Sure you can see while he's called that. He's got a big old autocannon torso. Uh, he is 50-ton mech. Doesn't move very fast. He moves standard speed of everyone else. But this autocannon that he carries is the heaviest one in the game, so this is it's a big knockout punch. It's the kind of weapon that can put another mech out in one turn. So we can see the difference already between these. You can see the punchy over here is much lighter now, but has still maintained action. Cracks. Forcer here. And this is what I was talking about, saying, you know, you don't want to put on so much of a coat, change the tone of the model, because these two models had the same base coat and the same shading, but now this one is much different shade of gray this guy is, and you just want to make sure that you can repeat that. So doing it, you don't want one mech to end up very light gray, one to end up light gray, and then another one to end up sort of gray. Okay. And I don't really know what I'm doing with the sound settings here. I don't know if I just need to speak up or you guys can hear me okay. Hopefully you can. Got a little mixer down here, and I think that the way that it's supposed to work is if I say something loud, it should go up into the... All right, so let's move on to the next. This one is an enforcer. This is the one of the favorites of House Davian. The I don't know if you'd want to say that it's a favorite of House Davion or a favorite of the Federated Sons, which House Davion is the ruling house of. A lot of stuff in Battletech is kind of regressed. Neo-feudalism going on. Each one of the great houses of the inner sphere is ruled by a different family. The family that runs the Sons is House Davion. If you're a big Game of Thrones fan or basically any kind of fantasy that's out there, you know, a lot of these are set up the same. Set up to mirror things that were all feudalism. Kind of medieval history. And then you have a place like the Marian hegemony, Battletech world, and if I'm wrong and it's not the Marian hegemony, somebody, sorry, I keep hitting ring light here. But if I remember correctly, it's the Marian hegemony set up along area. Classical Roman. I think that's them. All right, so I still don't know exactly who I'm talking to. Green wire. But know where you are. Nickel City. Went to the Nickel City and you saw the pods there. Those were created to go in places called virtual world. Uh, oh, uh, were you the one asking about orc books? And I said, just start anywhere really, because it doesn't matter. If so, okay. If uh, if you remember there was a, I don't know, I'm 6 feet tall, so I want to say like 9 foot tall mech that was next to the pods in there. Uh, that went whenever they got rid of the simulator pods. Uh, they didn't really need that guy anymore, so they sent him home with some kids that work there. Those kids put him in the backyard, put some bumper stickers on him and whatnot. And I think at one point put a beer bottle, like a bottle opener on it, using it as backyard decoration. Somebody was fast enough to notice that it came up for sale on Facebook Marketplace, shot me a message, and I score that thing. Sitting in my backyard for 2 years now, waiting to get refurbished and put. And I think it was Ranger that you asked about. How's the board game? Guessing you're asking about the tabletop version of BattleTech, because there's too many names out there. BattleTech is the. I didn't drop it. I straight up dropped that. Um, BattleTech is the overarching name of the universe. Uh, but all of the. So you have Battletech. This is a battle mech. The person who pilots it is called a mech warrior. Mech warrior is the name that they ended up giving to all the video game titles. So the original titles came out on old school 5-inch floppies back in the day, like actual floppies. Uh, it was about a mercenary unit that was betrayed and had to build it and all this and survive. That's how I got introduced to it, because I had a friend who had a Commodore 64. Which, you're not already in your 40s, you may not know what Commodore 64 is. I don't know how much ancient computer history is actually being passed along. But in the early 90s, they came out with MechWarrior 2. It was, by today's standards, a very goofy looking game. It was quite revolutionary in its time to capture my imagination. Because at the same time that MechWarrior 2 came out, you also had Battletech tabletop game, which had been around since the 1980s. If I remember correctly, it was put out in 1983 under the name Battle Droids. And of course, they immediately got a cease and desist from George Lucas. Had to stop using droids, so they just called it Battletech. Uh, Licensed some images from uh, from some already existing Japanese mecha anime. Uh, One called Dougram. I don't even know correctly. Another one called Crusher Joe. Some of the most, well, the most iconic mechs in the BattleTech world ended up coming out of that because that was the original art. They didn't have $1 billion to go out and get their own artists, so they licensed that art. That art became all of their sort of standard mechs right out of the gate. You know, if you're familiar with Warhammer, that would be like your basic Space Marine. Just saying Space Marine. Not an intercessor or reaver or anything like that. Just think back to original Space Marines. That's what a lot of the originals were. Just the most classic. They get mentioned most often in the original novels, which a lot of the novels are pretty darn good. Several of the novels aren't so great. But over the years, they ended up getting sued over a licensing issue having to do with some of those anime mechs. That lawsuit wasn't resolved until recently, last 4 years maybe. So the big difference between something like BattleTech and something like Warhammer is Warhammer's much. Thanks, dude. Every Monday and Wednesday from here on out. Wednesday nights will be the night where I'll probably just sit here and paint. Monday night, I think we're gonna try to. I'm gonna try to challenge myself to do some new techniques. So I'm not an expert by any means. I've just found a few things that I'm good at. But I really enjoy BattleTech because it's easier for me to wrap my head around. Uh, Personally, just because of who I am, and I enjoy the lore, I enjoy the video games. So getting into the nitty gritty of sitting down and doing up some record sheets, rolling some dice, and actually playing. I don't mind if I lose at this game because I really enjoy it. I enjoy it because it is very symmetrical game. This is a victor. A victor is a victor is a victor is a victor. Uh, Medium lasers are always medium lasers. It doesn't matter which house or which mercenary unit or whatnot you're from. If I have a medium laser and you have a medium laser and I'm in range of you, well, then you're in range of me. And we're going to shoot at each other. There's usually not so many mechs on the board that you will be really unfamiliar with how some of them are used. Uh, there are a lot of mechs that fill sort of the same battlefield role, but at different weights. So something like this Victor, weighs 80 tons. Carries an autocannon 20, a couple of medium lasers, some short range missiles. The only difference between this Victor and this 50-ton Hunchback, which is 30 tons lighter, the Hunchback also carries an autocannon 20. Also has, I believe, 2 medium lasers. So it has almost the same firepower as this 80-ton mech. And it's just as fast. They both move 4 hexes walking, or 4 inches. And then 6 hexes running. Victor, however, has jump jets. Jump jets allow the mech to jump. They weigh. They have a weight depending on the weight of them. So jump jets on a 50-ton Hunchback, to move the same amount of hexes, to move 4 hexes, would weigh a lot less than the jump jets on an 80-ton Victor. This guy's jump jets have to move 80 tons around, whereas Hunchies only has to move 50. So they both kind of fulfill the same role. They are. I don't like calling mechs brawlers, because that gives the, in my head, that gives me the impression of boxers and somebody's gonna punch somebody. You're more than welcome to punch people with your mechs. It's not my preferred method. But both of these guys can ambush. I don't know what's going on. Both of these guys can deliver a knockout punch. However, if you are on an open plane, if you're not fighting in something like canyons or in a city, if I have a long range mech and all you have is this Victor coming at me, as soon as I see him coming, I'm going to try to destroy him. Because I can't let him get close. If he gets close, he can deliver a knockout punch. Shot. The great part about having jump jets with a Victor is you can hide behind a building. So say this is an office block or something. I can get behind there. Whatever, if you bring a mech over here on this side, you're probably going to be trying to engage targets of opportunity. If I can make you forget about this guy, I can then jump him over behind you, shoot you in your rear armor, which is a little. So I've got these guys painted up. There's still a few of y'all here, so if you're hanging out, you want to hang out a little bit longer, I'm more than happy to. Probably need to go clean out my water here before I continue. So if you guys want to hang out, paint a little bit longer, ask questions or whatnot, then do so. So if you guys are still here in a few minutes when I get back, we'll keep going. Right. Uh, yes and no. Uh, if you ever see me at the shop and it doesn't look like I'm busy, or if you see like all the Battletech stuff sitting out and I'm just kind of sitting there looking a little lonely, more than welcome to it's yourself and happy to teach anybody how to play. Uh, there are some nights where we have folks playing different tabletop games. There's folks out there right now playing Blood Bowl, which is the Games Workshop football, where you run around the table chucking all around. You're playing football, but you're playing it with the fantasy characters. And the squad based versions of Warhammer and Warhammer 40,000 are going to be Kill Team for Warhammer 40,000 and Warcry, the fantasy version called Age of Sigmar. I mean, anybody who plays those games is probably happy to teach you how to play. Uh, I I'm probably not the person you want to teach you how to play Warhammer. Yeah, don't be shy. One of the things that I pride myself on here at our shop is that basically, yeah, Kill Team is great. I've played Kill Team. I enjoyed it a lot more than I enjoyed regular Warhammer, and that doesn't mean that I'm not saying anything bad about regular Warhammer. It's just me, you know. Uh, Everybody plays something a little bit differently. Uh, there's a lot of people out there playing Animal Crossing right now. Uh, I don't know anything about it. And I'm not gonna sit here and poo poo on it. Uh, it's just not my jam. I have I think on my PS5 at the house, I've got Gran Turismo and MLB 2022, but the MLB game I never play outside of the Road to the Show version where you create your own player and you basically just play yourself. You don't manage the whole team. You don't do all that. It's not like management mode or anything. But there's a lot of people out there who love it. There's people who put together whatever their little Diamond Dynasty team and then play each other online. I'm probably not going to play that. Yeah, nobody's going to like everything the same. Uh, but that's no reason to poo poo anybody else's thing. Uh, I don't. I never got into Pokemon. And that's it. I feel silly a lot of times because here I am providing you guys with the Pokemon, and people ask me, "Hey man, do you have this certain card?" I'm like, I don't even know how to spell that, dude. Uh, it makes me feel a little bit like a fraud, but I want you to enjoy your thing. It doesn't matter what your thing is. Enjoy it, please. Enjoy it. You have a right to enjoy what you want to enjoy. And I'm not here to tell you that what you enjoy is wrong. Well, unless on a basic, objective, flat out moral basis, what you're doing is wrong. Please do not enjoy serial killing. That's not something to enjoy. Uh, Enjoy serial. Enjoy watching stuff about serial killers. Just don't enjoy being a serial killer. That's bad. Yeah, there's a ton of people. If you ever see anybody playing a game that you want to play, it's it's hard for some folks, and I know, it's hard for me to go up to something I'm not familiar with, to the gym. I'm a big guy, and I played football in high school, and I don't want to be Uncle Rico and talk about how we won state back in '57 or something, but I wouldn't know how to go up to somebody at the gym and be like, "Hey man, can you show me how to use this machine?" I would feel kind of silly. Uh, Here, I don't want you guys to have to feel that way. If you see somebody playing Kill Team and you want to ask them about it, just be like, "Hey man, my name's so and so. Been real interested in playing Kill Team. Mind if I hang out and watch? Do you mind if I ask some questions? If hey, if I ask too many, let me know." Uh, our crowd here is pretty cool, pretty understanding. Uh, I don't remember ever seeing an instance where somebody new walked up and got shot down. If that ever happens to you, by the way, come and find me. I can go voice my displeasure. So I keep disappearing off camera because got well, I turned off the. Let's go back to the double view there. Got these blue guys here, and they're sprayed in crystal blue from the army painter, and then shaded with the blue shade. Drakenhof? I think I shaded him with Drakenhof Nightshade from Citadel. Uh, and then thankfully, Crystal Blue and the blue from the Pro Curl paints from Monument Hobbies are about the same. So I'm able to. I don't know if I'm supposed to. I don't even know exactly what this technique is doing this, but let's call it wet brushing, blending, something. Uh, to bring all these panels back out. Now what I'm trying to do is I'm looking for Emmerich blue from Citadel. Emmerich blue. It's really bright blue. I found some skink blue. Let me see if it responds. This is why it's important to know at least a little bit of French. There's a certain thing called mise en place. It's put in place. It means that you've prepped the things that you need. So if you need peppers, you have peppers out. Carrots, well, you've already diced your carrots and done that. What I have not done is I have not made sure that I have Emmerich Blue out. So you guys can bear with me for a moment. See if I can find it real quick. All right. So, you're still with me. Thank you. These are both dry paints, so they'll have the consistency more like pudding than like a regular flowy paint. So here we have skink blue, which is a very bright. Over here we have Emmerich. Emmerich is much closer to the color that's already on the model. Really depends on what you're going for. If you want something shocking, a nice light dry brush along all the edges with some skink blue would be okay. Because this has so many panel lines and everything else, I'm probably gonna opt for the Emmerich blue. And you don't have to use a dry. You can use a regular paint, like I was using the Pro Acryl blue earlier. I like using the dries from Citadel because they're a little bit easier to control. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch brushes. There's this little guy. This is a brush from Monument. Synthetic brushes. This little guy's great. I still have section for these little guys from Citadel. Their dry brushes are flat rather than tapered. I don't know if it really makes a huge difference. I don't know if there's someone right now screaming on the other end of this connection saying, well, the tapered versions are for this application. Black. So what we can do here is we can get a little bit of this out. Get it right here. These dry brushes, I don't know who the heck's gonna watch this, and this is my first scheduled stream rather than just popping up. So hopefully I'm not talking either nonsense or trying to give you a bunch of information you all. But dry brushes, you can abuse them a lot more than I would ever want to see you use a So what we're going to do here is on these little corners where some of the shade has come across, we're going to test Emmerich blue and see how it comes out first, just by doing a traditional dry brush technique. And what we're trying to do here is not, we're not looking to I'm not looking to try to cover up the color that's on these flat panels like I was earlier whenever I did. What I'm trying to do here is I'm just trying to get the edges to kind of simulate what's going on. You can see my shirt here in this picture. You can see where the shadow catches it. Try to point right here. Crazy, but this little guy right here, see this line? Go down like this. So on one side of it, there's shadow. There's a high spot where the light hits it. That's what you're trying to do. Dry brush. Shade is the shadow. Dry brushing is high spot. Creating those spots artificially. And if you start off with if you have the choice between two dry brush colors like I have here, want to test one to see how it looks, I would probably recommend that you start off with the darker one first, because dry brushing, it's usually easier to go lighter rather than trying to cover up. So let's start here on. And if you're new to painting and you haven't done a lot of dry brushing just yet, it can be hard to notice, especially because you're brushing off most of your paint here. You really don't want paint. If you're doing a regular model, I would say that that's probably, you're still getting paint coming off your brush. It's probably too much paint. These little guys, I don't have to be as careful. When I go across the top here, I'm not trying to get this whole panel to pop out. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get this little spot, these little veins, trying to get them to look three-dimensional. Things like his little ridge right here, the tops of his arms, the round part on his shoulder here. I'm really trying to get those to pop out. That'll give you a lot more dimension to your model. It'll give a lot of things a much more realistic look. If you're doing military stuff, you're doing Space Marines. Space Marines carry guns. You ever been around a surplus gun, or if you've seen a well-used rifle, all the high spots on it kind of lost coating. A lot of bare metal. Just like this guy has techs crawling across him, as technicians, mechanics, call them. He has them crawling across, and those high, thinner spots are going to wear faster. So that's a lot so far. I know it's probably a little hard to tell, but I'm not using $1 million camera equipment here. I'm just using some GoPros. But along the I don't, these guys have I don't know why they're built like this, but along his little turtle shell here, hope you can kind of see how that's a little bit brighter. Uh, I might want to go step up the dry brushing. Thankfully, this is blue. I'm looking at possibly using another blue, so shouldn't be shouldn't need to clean out my brush too crazy. It's not like I'm going from red to green. Oh, you can see what happened there. Uh, bit too much into the pot there. That's okay with the dry brush. It's not so bad. You're already so rough with this thing. But what I do want to do is I want to make sure that it all this paint off crimp here. Uh, this is the ferrule, Ferrul. It's where all the bristles are pinched into. It's tough because I was already doing blue, and now I'm doing blue again. I've got a blue paper towel out, so I don't. I'm just hard to tell sometimes. Color I have in the brush. So I don't know if you guys can see this that well, but right here I applied a little bit of skink blue. That looks a little bit more. It looks a lot lighter. So I think this may be the color that. So I've already put Emmerich blue on the back of the mech here, but I'm gonna go ahead and put on some skink. See just how it's get. And hey, you know what, guys? I think we have try to hit the panels here. I don't want to go. I don't want to try to press too hard, uh, going up and down this way because I don't want to leave a line of paint on it, but I do want to try to get panel line pop out a little. A little bit of dry brushing goes a long way. Uh, you guys can pick it out there, but there's too much right here. That's okay. Not the end of the world. Sometimes it can be hard to dry brush without striking the model crimped part of the ferrule there. You don't really want to do that because you're not transferring paint really the way that you want to. Always, almost always better to have a very light hand. And there's some spots on here that I'm not really going to bother with. Probably this little guy carries some autocannon, some arms. These are probably going to get painted silver. So if I do end up hitting them with a little dry brushing, hey, whatever. I'll probably paint over them. So it probably really won't matter. The great part is if I miss them, probably won't. What you really want to focus on is you want to focus on things up. Things that are in. I'm going to get his little shin thingies here. Call them. Know that these bird legs are referred to as jittergrade. I'm sure that Tyler will correct me. It's a biologist. Tugrade. Got that model. Have and probably a little bit hard to tell GoPro there, but well, there's a pretty good shot. You can see how on little turtle looking guy spot on top of his access hatch with all the little veins and what, probably some heat sinks, radiators, they're popping out. This guy. So on to this guy next. He's got a ton of lines. It'll probably look better. And I've got to assume that Ranger here isn't the only person in the chat. So if you guys are out there just doing a little bit of voyeur and dropping in, don't be shy, because I feel a little bit awkward just talking into the ether here. You guys have questions? Doesn't really matter what they're about. Try to answer them. Life, the universe, everything. That's 42. So I've got to try to stop doing covering and painting. It's nice to have a nice grip on the model, but it there we go. So you can already see how top of his head and everything here, this is popping a lot more. Great, that's what we want. It doesn't have to be insane, it doesn't have to be super crazy, it just has to be a little bit of a pop. And every model is going to be different. If you're more into the mud and blood Dungeons and Dragons, Game of Thrones look, a whole lot of washes. That nice dark look. You could take a model without dry brushing it. Uh, for Battletech, you can play one mech if you want to. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Mechs weigh anywhere from 20 tons up to 100 tons. You do not want to play by tonnage, because that, my friend, is the road to misery. Because there are some mechs that are 80 tons, but they're meant for a certain battlefield role. So there's a mech like a mech called the Charger. The Charger is the butt of a lot of jokes because it is a 80-ton mech. And it moves. Its move is 5'8", so it can walk 5 hexes, run 8. That's about average speed for a medium sized mech. Mediums are anything from 40 to 55 tons. So 40, 45, 50, 55 tons. That's the medium weight class. 20 through 35 is the light. 60 through 75 is heavy. 80 to 100 tons is assault. A lot of the reasoning for that being, hey, if the thing weighs 80 tons, it's probably pretty expensive. Moving something that weighs 80 tons requires a bigger engine than moving something that weighs 20 tons. To put that in a sort of a realistic scale, when you're looking at something like World War II ships, a ship in the First World War, or one that actually still exists, the Texas, had 35,000 horsepower and weighs, I can't remember, like 25,000 tons or something, displaces 25,000 tons. And I think has around like 35,000 horsepower. It can flat out go about 20 knots, right? Well, when you look at something like an aircraft carrier or a fast battleship, something, well, modern day aircraft carriers, they can push 40 knots. And that's good. It's great. Aircraft carriers need to do that. But back in the day, battleships didn't need to. If you were going 40 knots in a battleship, you're trying to shoot and hit somebody, it's going to be pretty hard. So, whatever. Anyways, I digress. There was a ship built that could do, I think it was like 34 knots with 135,000 horsepower. The engines that they were going to use, the boilers that they were going to use, the turbines, whatever they were going to use for that, were needed elsewhere. So they ended up down rating, using different equipment that was rated a lot lower, rated at 100,000 horsepower, and the ship still went 32 knots. So from 34 to 32 knots was 35,000 horsepower. That's a lot of machinery for not that much of a gain. That's why you don't see assault mechs going 6 hexes. It's the engine required for doing the so massive would never do. But that 80-ton mech that I was referring to, it's an assault mech, but it goes 5'8", so 5 hexes walking, hexes running. Only problem is it only carries 5 small lasers. That's think 10 points of damage total if it hits with every single laser. And if I remember off the top of my head, the range of small lasers is 1 hex is short, 2 is medium, is long, so like 90 meters. Small lasers are not, they're not much. So if you run into a battle with something like a charger at 80 tons, take something like this Victor at 80 tons, probably every single time this Victor is going to just that 1 hex slower speed from 5 walking to 4 walking frees up so much tonnage that you don't have to dedicate to the engine, that now the Victor can mount weapons and armor. So for us sacrificing a little bit of mobility, gained a lot of firepower and that's the name of the game whenever it comes to armored vehicles, even today. Even in the modern world, have countries like Germany, which don't. I'm not talking about modern day Germany. I'm talking about not so fun, terrible, awful things that Germany did during World War II. But modern day Germany runs the Leopard 2 battle tank. Leopard 2 doesn't have much armor, but it's super fast. They rely on the ability to shoot and scoot, so they'll fire and then try to run away. Nothing wrong with that. If you're shooting and the other guy's shooting, but the other guy can't hit you because you're moving too fast, well, you win. But then you look at something like the Abrams. Now, the Abrams is a very balanced tank. It has tons of armor, it has decent mobility, and it has a pretty good gun on it. But then there are Russian tanks that have massive guns, but no mobility, or they sacrifice other things to get more firepower. So you're doing that with mechs. You're always trying to find a balance of what kind of weapons is it loaded out with. Does it have long range weapon, short range weapon? Is this thing meant to be a fire support mech? Is it meant to be up front, in the thick of it? And how you use your mechs in the field really determine how well you do it. Because there's nothing in Battletech like in Warhammer where there's a reroll. Once you roll, you roll. It's done. So if you want to run one light mech against another light mech, it's a fun battle. It's a fun battle. If you want to go off of battle value, which is determined by some sort of algorithm that I have never seen, and even if you did show it to me, I probably wouldn't understand. But battle value is everything that's on the mech, how fast the mech is, and all of that. The weapons that the mech mounts, all of those have different values, and those values get punched into an algorithm. End of that, you end up with the mech battle value. So there are mechs with higher battle value than you would think. And just something like switching out weaponry. So some mechs will switch out maybe a particle projection cannon, basically a lightning gun. It's just shooting shooting ionized radiation. You're creating lightning, causing a positive charge somewhere and a negative charge somewhere else, and what results from that is electrons flowing. Very excited manner. And crazy things once they hit metal and dissipate. So just something as simple as switching out a particle projection cannon for something like a large laser, which they do almost the same amount of damage, but a PPC will shoot a lot further. That'll change the battle value of a specific mech. What a lot of us enjoy about Battletech is you have your standard boilerplate mech. There will be variations of it, just like there are variations of everything in the world. But if you think about like a Corvette, the car, Chevy Corvette. Most Corvettes are Corvettes. Then there are ZR1s, there's Z06s, but that's like, what, 2% of their production run is going to be a Z06, the fancy performance version. And whenever it comes to mechs, it's kind of that same way. That company is going to try to produce as many mechs as it can. Do that, you can't be producing a billion variants. You're looking at things more like, hey, we're going to change the paint. Some of these mechs. Not going to change the full-on weapons loadout because that creates a logistical nightmare. You get to the front line in a military, and it's nice whenever everybody uses the same shell. That's why they call the standard M16 round, whatever, NATO 5.56. So if all of NATO uses it, it doesn't matter where you go. If somebody invades Belgium and you pick an army unit up from Italy and drop it into Belgium, well, there's probably some ammunition sitting around at a depot or a storehouse or somewhere that would fit that weapon. So it doesn't matter if you have like a French FAMAS or a American M16 or a whatever. Probably going to be able to use the same ammunition out of all. You have to apply that same kind of logic to mechs. You're moving something across light years to another planet to sit it down and fight. And you find out that the 75 millimeter cannon that's on this gun is, oh, well, shoot, man, this one's made at this gun shop and it doesn't fit, 75 millimeter Mark 1. It only fits 75 millimeter Mark 2. And we don't have any of that here. It sounds embarrassing, but that kind of stuff happens in warfare. British ships during World War II had a big problem with it because there were tons of different secondary armaments ships. They had 4-inch guns, 4.5-inch guns, 4.7-inch guns, 5-inch guns, 5.25, 5.5. Uh, it's so. How do I know how much cargo to put on this thing to send it to this place so that I know these guns are going to be equipped? You apply that logic to the Battletech universe, and what it means is that if you are trying to build a unit lore wise around Federated Suns and you want to play, gosh darn it, I want to play the where's whatever, I'm gonna play the Davian Heavy Guards. uh well, probably want to take the mechs that are built in Davian space. So if there's a facility that builds enforcers, which there's a ton of in Davian space, they love the enforcer. Uh, you probably want to take the standard enforcer. Uh, just because there's going to be 47 of them on the planet whenever you arrive. They can all use the same spare parts and ammunition. So going off into that world of hyper specialized models and all that, it just, some people love doing it. They love trying to meta a game that really doesn't have a whole lot of meta. And they will say, well, I brought my mech and it has 19 extended range medium lasers and that's it. Okay, cool. It's something that is so silly that it probably would never exist probably wouldn't exist in the lore. If it did exist in the lore, it would be the butt of a joke. Uh, so there's that. That's my long diatribe on battle variants and uh, you have two main factions. You've got the Inner Sphere and clans. Inner Sphere is the sphere of worlds around Earth that humanity spread out into. So of course you start at a central point and you go in every direction. Eventually going to make a circle. So it's called the Inner Sphere, but considering you're along the galactic plane, it ought to be called the Inner Circle. There's 5 great houses. You've got each one of the houses has its own nation. So you have Draconis Combine, which is by House Karita. Each one of the houses has kind of an overarching, very simplistic ethnic basis. Yeah, Gundam and Gunpla stuff is like I don't know if you were here early enough, but a lot of the original mechs were licensed artwork from Crusher Joe and Dougram and whichever one of the Robotech, Southern Cavalry Cross or Super Battleship Yamato or whatever. They were licensed out of there. So you would see the Shadowhawk. I think the Shadowhawk came from Dougram, but it would be very Gundam-y. It's native in its native setting. Whereas once you switch over to Battletech, things are much more plodding, clunky. Definitely not as graceful. That's one of the things that they, in the lore of Battletech, they like to attribute to a few mech pilots here and there. They'll talk about how they have such a strong intuition of how their mech works, and they've had so much practice with it and whatnot that they're able to do things like like skid sidestepping, stuff that you would normally probably only see in a. You're definitely not going to do it in the video game. Those the controls for doing Gundam style stuff in the Mech Warrior video games just doesn't exist. It's just not there. Maybe in something like Titanfall. I've never played it, but I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. For me, uh, I don't have to paint faces. I I can pick out some panels here and there. I know these are lasers, and so I know where to put some metallic paint. I know where to put the shiny stuff and the not shiny stuff. All right. So as far as as far as building a unit, the inner sphere, which has been uh, BattleTech lore, kind of starts around the year 3000. Most of it is more towards 3050, but a lot of the setup for the intrigue and whatnot uh, for the great houses is in between the year 3000 and 3050. In that era, uh, the clans are not around. So like this is a clan mech. That's a that's just a wrinkle in the story that probably just want to look up a YouTube video on that one. There's a lot of great explainers out there, but inner sphere units are built a lot like traditional modern day cavalry. So you have a lance of 4 mechs, 3 lances in a company. So company would be 12 mechs. Then 3 companies in a battalion, 3 battalions in a regiment. So you're looking at 4 up 3 to 12 in a company, to 36 in a battalion, to 108 regiment, I think. And then you're looking at 3 regiments to make a division. In the modern military, divisions are broken down into brigades. Uh, at some point in BattleTech, in the newer lore, and like once they start getting in 3050s and 3060s, they start getting regimental combat teams and brigade combat teams, which are more of a kind of a 1990s modern military adaptation. It's a much more a unit that's much more self-sufficient without having to draw as much support out into. So you should be able to pick up a brigade and send it anywhere around the world, and it should be able to function with everything just in its own brigade. It shouldn't have divisional assets. I don't know how right I am about any of that. I was in the Army for 77 days, so don't take my word on anything about the modern military. It could be completely off. What you're operating in lore wise in the pre 3025 era is a very important world, may have a whole regiment. But, you know, average world, uh, think of a city in another state that you can name. You know, it's not New York or LA or Chicago. Things like places like that would they would get a whole regiment. Kansas City would get a battalion. Um, but most places in Battletech are like Tucumcari, really isolated. They have kind of a one trick pony economy. There are planets out there that they were the lore, the way they work in the lore is that, you know, settled because they have a certain part of the planet had a pretty good agricultural deal. Maybe that's the only people who ever settled on the planet. Like, whatever. Okay, this place is like, it's like the Midwest, except it's huge and it's on this planet. So whatever, go there. But if the rest of the planet is jungle full of nasty snakes and insects, why even bother? No, I'm not gonna try to set up a whole new culture there. Let's just grow some beans and leave the rest of that alone. So there are certain planets that are like just mining planets. There are going to be planets that all they do on that planet is grow space beef. There's going to be a planet where, hey, there's gigantic honeybees here. Let's just harvest a lot of honey. A lot of times those places don't warrant a whole protection force. They don't really need it. Really? Left my I left my washing cup. So if you've seen Futurama and you want to Zap Brannigan is basically a House Steiner, the Lyran Commonwealth. Uh, that's Zap Brannigan. Individual troops in House Steiner are not bad people. The Steiners have the most planets, they have the most industry, they have the worst generals. Because their army is so big and accidentally powerful that they can make up for having terrible generals. So in Steiner space, you get individual troops who are skilled pilots. but but it's not so much of a meritocracy. You influence your way into being a general. I don't know, I don't know how many Instagram influencers I want to see leading my army. They're not always the most. They don't always make the most logical decisions. Uh, so they're very Zap Brannigan esque in their leadership. But they treat their people pretty well. That's as far as the lore goes. They have enough wealth because of all of their industry that they can have a pretty high level of element. There's a there's a few problems with BattleTech lore, and some of them are the same problems that we run into with historical wargaming. There are certain people who pick, oh, I want to play the Germans, and House Steiner, full of Germans. A lot of people who are too into that German aspect. Uh, whereas, whereas the two houses that supposedly treat their people the worst are House Kurita, the overtly Japanese nation, and the Capellan Confederation, which is mostly made up of Chinese and Russian influence. But you have to remember that Battletech was written in the 80s. They're not, I don't think they're trying to be crappy about stuff. They've done a really good job in the 90s of rehabilitating the image of Draconis Combine and the Capellan Confederation from like mustache twirling kung fu movie villains to real people. Uh yeah, so I mean it's almost 9:15. I don't know who's still here, but again, I've got these gray mechs left to put some dry brushing on. So I'll take a break. I'll go find my wash cup, and as they're still here, back in a few minutes. Uh, keep going. All right, we're back. Now it says that there's 4 people watching, which I'm happy anybody's watching. Is the whole idea behind this. Let's paint some stuff. Let's do a little Bob Rossing. The Bob Ross people are listening to me. I don't know. Hello? What's up? You're not watching it? I'm not mad. I'm just. That's fun. That's about it. I am streaming. So, back whenever. So my daughter apparently decided to take her fork while she was eating some macaroni and cheese, stick it in her hair. Uh, you know, kids kids don't get context all the time. They just see, oh, someone reacted, and so my my poor wife was like, ah, and of course somebody reacted, and so that means that she's gonna keep. All right. So since I've already dry brushed these gray guys, Dawnstone, probably I probably need to go up a step to something like Longbeard Gray or some Rack White. Silly part about all of this is I had that paint in my hand earlier. Now I cannot remember where exactly. There's SETI White. There's Longbeard Gray. All right. So there's 3 different colors here. Praxetti White is very white. Longbeard Gray is pretty gray. This is Rack White. Rack White has more of a okay. It's more of a beige than a beige. So I think out of these, I'm betting that Ray probably his choice. Yeah, if you haven't made it out to the news store yet, or there's six of you now. If there's any of you watching who are not local to Albuquerque, are watching somewhere else, I don't really know. Just in case you're somewhere crazy, if you're from Bendigo, Australia, or something. We're in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We've been open about 4.5 years now. Just moved 6 months ago from our original location. 1,700 square feet to 2,700 square feet, and we're already feeling space wide. So it only took about 6 months. If you guys are watching and you can hear me, me throw something out there. I'm not I'm not an expert at this yet, so I don't really know what to ask you just yet. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to shout them out. I mean, heck, if nothing else, if you guys are painting something, throw it, throw it out in chat. Let us know what you're painting. Know what you're playing. Always, I've got a. I always feel a little bit disconnected from everybody because I don't play as many games as most of you guys do, but got the whole shop. The and sometimes I feel a little bit silly because I see somebody playing a new game and I'm like, hey, what's that? And then I find out that it's something they bought from us like 2 weeks ago. It's like, oh, well, I I don't mainly use Citadel paints. I use them where I need to. I really like the dries just because they're so much easier to control. They go a long way while you're dry brushing. I've used regular paint, just regular old paint, like the monument paints to paint with, to do dry brushing with, and because they have so much more medium, they're they're better. But I as somebody who sells multiple product lines, find what you like. I enjoy all of the paints that we sell, uh, but I found an affinity for the Monument Hobbies Pro Acryl line because they use a different style dropper. Uh, it's more of the old school Elmer's glue style rather than having the, so they twist open here rather than having a cap that screws on. Uh, and they're sealed down in, so they'll have a there it is, foam ring. Sometimes it comes off in the. They're nice paints. There's not as many colors just yet. Are nice paints. Yeah, with with basically everything that we sell, as far as regular hand brushing paints goes, you know, if we if people were complaining about them, we we wouldn't carry them anymore. But I think we've been pretty lucky that we've got some good supplies at our distributors that we can order from. I think that our employees have been very helpful over the years because everybody who works here plays more games than I do. It's just a of the beast. The wonderful part about running a game store is you're not running a game, you're a store. So you've got taxes to pay and floors to put down, and got to make sure payroll's done and all that fun stuff. But Brian, Alex, Matt, Caitlin, uh, Tyler, everybody Blanca, everybody who's here is great, and everybody knows everybody knows stuff that I don't know. They're all able to contribute wherever they. I'm grateful for that because that you guys get you guys get a better product lineup, get better service than what I could provide by myself. There's no way to be able to keep up knowing everything that these guys half the time they're playing games and what are you guys playing? The other day they were playing something called Space Weirdos. Where did you find this? I have no idea what this is. It might as well be might as well be a rocket science textbook sometimes. But yeah, the new shop's great. It's nice to have. We've got some private rooms set aside. I haven't finished one of them yet. I still need to get all the tools and stuff out of there. All the stuff that from getting the rest of the store ready. Still kind of hanging out. Need to get that stuff out of there. And we're waiting for little things. Shades for the windows. Never wanted. I wanted one of my big things about finding a new space was I didn't want any space that faced west. And part of this building faces northwest, but it's still west enough that it catches the afternoon sun. So as soon as we get some shades installed, be a little bit cooler in the afternoons and be a lot less glare in the eyeballs of our soon. So I know the detail on this camera isn't perfect, but I'm sure that you guys can see the difference between these two models now. Blended out a lot of the flat spots. So this model was spray painted, shaded, and we went back with I went back with Dawnstone and just kind of blended it all over so that way the detail still be like in the little faceplate there and in the little missile launcher. We still want that to be dark, but I don't want big flat bits of shader sitting like knees and stuff. Uh, but at the same time, gray is kind of a boring color, and going all the way up to this long beard gray for a shader. Once I have some other colors on these look pretty. So, we've got 5 people in here. 2 of y'all are talking. I don't know what the other 3 are doing. But Monday nights, I've got another stream scheduled. Gonna try to get on here every Monday and Wednesday night. Do a little bit of painting. But Wednesday nights are gonna be more about just getting together to paint. You guys want to paint with us? If you want to ask questions, if you want to chew the fat, whatever. But Monday nights, I want to try something a little bit different. I want to challenge, calling that lowered expectations. The old Mad TV skit. And in there, I'm going to be trying to do stuff that I have either never done before, or I'm going to be trying to fix boo-boos. Make a lot of boo. I make a lot of things look sometimes. But the part about these paints is if you put them on thin enough, you can always paint over them. Just don't put them on. Yeah, and on Mondays, like I said, I want it to be more like a challenge. Why I'm calling it lowered expectations. Mondays are going to be about subs. Going to be times where probably get on to try to paint something. But I also want to figure out a sort of a challenge where maybe I don't step too far outside of my comfort zone and start doing people, but maybe I randomly open a box with a mech in it. Maybe I like pre-prep a bunch of little mechs or something. Just because for me it's faster to paint. Uh, maybe like I put a bucket of paint out and have my daughter like randomly pick out 3 colors, or I have you guys randomly pick out 3 colors. Then whatever, it's a base coat of gray on the model, and then I have to put pink and green and yellow on it, or there's a base coat of black and I have to do green and light green. But just something to make me try stuff that I probably wouldn't try before. I'm here to watch my guy. like, am I your guy? You my wife? The only other person I know who calls me my guy is Nick. Nick is in. And if you're my wife, you already have a Twitch account. So it is Sally. In which case, I think your username is Sally Pie No E. I I think it would be fun to do like a like red, but then it can be red, dark red, and pink, or whatever. Like it could be three colors of the same shade. Uh, because as far as mixing paints goes, it'll you can miss me with that. Uh, but these guys are almost one color. I mean, they're basically entirely gray. They look pretty nifty. So we'll we'll figure it out. Uh, it's technically been almost 4 hours, so that's a lot of it's kind of a lot for me. So we've got painting done. We've got a Star of Clan mechs ready for uh, accent painting. We've got a lance of gray inner sphere guys ready for some accent painting. Uh, so there's 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 work to be done. Maybe between now and next Wednesday, I will figure out a couple of accent colors to do for each side here. I'm thinking for the blue guys, they'll get some brown. Thinking the gray guys were bright. But either way, if you guys are wanting to come back, same time, same place next week, I think I got the technical issue straightened out. So, uh, yeah, be here on be here Monday at 7. Uh, in the meantime, stay tuned and might pop up from time to time to just do like a random session. So, thanks for stopping by, guys, and see you next time.